My 29F brother, 26M, jokingly pointed a loaded gun at me and pretended to shoot. I, 29F, feel just so crazy regarding this situation. My family is enmeshed and my parents are emotionally immature for background. There is a lack of boundaries and a lot of shame and control. I recently figured this out and have been in trauma therapy for about a year and have been really working to set boundaries and distance myself. My brother, 26M, decided to surprise my father, 55M, for a trip home for Father's Day. He is the only sibling living out of state. I am out of town this weekend spending time with my long-distance fiancé, 33M. Because I don't get to spend much time with my brother, I stayed in town Thursday evening to get dinner with him. We had a pretty good time and I drove him to my parents' house. Both were working late and not home. My father has a handgun on the counter and it's a new one. I gave my brother a heads up, be careful as it's in a spot someone could possibly bump it. I came inside to say bye, grab some pieces of my mail that still randomly come to my parents' house. I live elsewhere. We live in a state where guns are very common and hunting is a form of subsistence in many areas. When I am at the front door, my brother picks up the gun, points it at me and pretends to shoot, like a kid with an imaginary gun-type motion. He is smiling, laughing while doing this and about 10–15 feet away from me. I later find out, and suspected at the time, that the gun is loaded. It's a revolver, which means one in the chamber as well, and there is no safety on that gun. It happened sort of quickly within 15 seconds. I froze and was just like, "Did you just fucking point a gun at me?" To which my brother responds, "No. I just say what the fuck a couple times." I immediately leave, just absolutely shocked. As soon as I'm driving away, my brother attempts to repeatedly call me. He calls about 6 times and texted me demanding I pick up. I ignore this and message that I do not want to talk right now. I never thought he could or would do something as stupid as this. I call my fiancé and had to pull off the road as once I am out of the situation I just break down hysterically crying. My fiancé gets me a ticket that evening to see him leave town. My brother texts me he feels sick, doesn't know why he did that, feels super bad and he will tell mom and dad, "You're 26?" Why does that seem so weird to me? In the following days my family responses have been strange and disappointing. I was worried my brother would do something stupid, was reflexively worried about him that evening. To which my fiancé said, he already did something stupid. Not a single member of my immediate family asked if I was okay. I also did not reach out to them as I was just in total shock, very upset, and felt as if I was tattling on my brother. He was the one to tell them and nobody checked on me. I'm not sure if he minimized the situation either. When I spoke to my father, he kept repeating how the worst thing is that now my mother will not want guns out in the house. Yeah, duh. He also said, "I thought I taught him better," which I can understand, but my brother is a grown man. When I said I broke down about having the gun pointed at me, he asked why. I was angry at him having a gun out in his house. But nobody expected this to happen, and we all know to always act as a gun is loaded and never aim at something you do not intend to shoot, or so I thought. My sister, 31F, just said my brother feels really bad. And brought up how I have not hung out enough since her dog passed away. My family expects to hang out multiple times a week and I've been working on exercising boundaries here. She also had not communicated being upset about this at any time until I said I was upset. She did not ask if I was okay. She even said, like, emotionally? My mom has been texting as if everything is normal. In general, if I don't text back quick enough she will message on Facebook, Instagram, iMessage, group messages. But my brother points a gun at me and she does not ask if I'm okay. I have not been responding much. I have not heard from my brother. My fiancé is angry on my behalf. He was in the military for 12 years and an avid hunter who owns guns. We have gone hunting together. He practices gun safety and just cannot fathom how my brother would do this. He has been very validating as I often oscillate between being extremely upset and angry to feeling as if I'm overreacting. He is the one who pointed out, even as a joke, this is a felony. My friends are shocked and supportive as well. My life was threatened as a joke, and an excuse of, I wasn't thinking. It feels as if this is being swept under the rug. I don't know what to do or say. I have therapy this next Wednesday that can't come soon enough. This makes me feel unsafe around my brother. My family's reaction also makes me feel unsafe around them. What are realistic boundaries for me moving forward? I struggle with boundaries and really could use advice and examples. I won't go to my parents' house unless guns are locked away. Do I not go to their house anymore? What are boundaries to have with my brother? Do I reduce contact? Cut him off? That feels like an overreaction. My family makes me feel like that is a major overreaction. Do I not hang out with my brother unless he takes a gun safety course? Am I crazy for being upset nobody even asked if I was okay? Why does it seem as if everyone is pretending this didn't happen? Too long did not read. My brother pointed a loaded gun at me as a joke and my family is acting as if it didn't happen. I don't know what to do, what boundaries to set moving forward. Literally rule number 1 of a gun. Loaded or not. Unless your goal is to kill them, never ever 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 point it at them. Brandishing a loaded firearm and making threatening gestures is a crime, isn't it? I'm not too familiar with US law, but I do remember hearing that somewhere. Your reaction is appropriate. There is no humor in pointing a gun at someone. He didn't know if it was loaded or not. He put your life in danger. Your dad is no better. No concern for you. Only that guns might not be allowed in the house. I'm at a loss for proper words for your family. Because everything I think of is very derogatory. Again, your reaction is appropriate. Theirs is seriously messed up. My most sincere condolences on having to be related to those folks. He is an idiot and should never be allowed to touch a gun again. There are too many stories just like yours, which ended with a body on a bag. Your brother should at least formally apologize, or voluntarily go to therapy. You have all the rights to be fucking mad. My 34 male wife, 32 female. Can't control her emotions with our kids, 6 female and 3 female. Hi Reddit. I'm reaching out here because I'm really struggling with how to move forward and break this unhealthy pattern in my family with my wife. Context. Married for 11 years, my wife has a very difficult time deregulating her emotions on her own. Especially in the moment a lot of her self-image and identity are tied to how productive she is. She tends to hyper-focus on tasks and can't transition easily when interrupted. She is very sensitive to noise and repetition. Household tasks we do our best to share. I typically take meals, lunches and dishes. My wife does more of the cleaning and laundry. We often team up and help with each other's stuff. Given the above, my wife gets triggered easily when the kids interrupt her and she needs to step away from what she's doing in the moment. Things like tidying, gardening, cooking, or any mini project like building IKEA furniture, or when things with the kids just aren't going smoothly, like bedtime routines. The dynamic we've had until now is that I typically handle bedtime with 6 female and my wife does 3 female. 3 female is very attached to her mum and demands her help, so that's what's been easiest so far. She will raise her voice with the kids if they don't immediately comply so she can continue uninterrupted. She will be terse with them when she does eventually step away with little to no filter or ability to control herself. Last evening my wife was borderline yelling at 3 female when 3 female didn't want her hair brushed and kept messing it up or keeping her hand in her hair, upset that her mom kept trying to brush it. Telling her, "Get your hand out of her hair. We'll need to cut it short if you don't let me brush it." All while snapping at her that she sit down and finish her snack while 3 female is upset and nearly in tears. I heard this and went down and calmly said to my wife that I can understand why 3 female doesn't want to eat or comply because she, wife, has made this a very stressful environment for 3 female. Wife said, "I know I'm not helping," and I said, "It's a lot more than just not helping. This morning we were trying to get out of the house and 3 female was overtired and putting up a fight about every decision. Melting down at the door because I got her socks instead of my wife getting them. Totally inconsolable. My wife tried to brute force it with a lot of, 'Okay mommy is putting you in the car,' and then tried to physically force her into her seat while she was crying and fighting the whole way. I intervened and took 3 female back inside to try and be with her and help her calm her body and big feelings. 3 female immediately fell asleep in the car when I took my wife to work an hour later, clearly needed it. Weekday mornings are similar where I get up early to do lunches and my wife gets the kids dressed and ready. If things don't go easily, my wife tries to brute force it and it usually ends with kids sobbing and asking for my help because my wife is escalating the intensity. The thing is, my wife is the first to admit she can't control herself. She's seen her doctor and gone on an SSRI, been seeing a counselor regularly, and genuinely hates how she can't control herself and wants to change and improve. Also, when she has the capacity to be emotionally present with the kids and turns off the to-dos in her brain, she's an 11/10 mom. She's the reason why our family is as functionally and emotionally connected and attached, but things lately have gotten so hard most of the time while she's around. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but I feel like I'm at a loss because things just aren't improving, or not at the rate I feel they need to. TLDR. My wife can't control her emotions with our kids and can be unkind and aggressive. Medication and therapy thus far haven't been helpful in moving the needle much. Has anyone else been in a situation like this, and how did it turn out? Any advice is strongly appreciated. Really sounds like she has ADHD. As someone who had a similar problem as your wife, I recommend that she needs to see herself from her children's perspective. Take video of her losing her cool and what the children's response is. Also a psychologist where you go and tell the problem is absolutely necessary. Not family therapy, that's crap. Okay, so is it possible that she may have autism, ADHD? Because I'm a young teenager with both autism and ADHD. I can definitely understand her because I also act like this, even if it's something I don't want to say. I can't control it and I end up yelling something dumb. Doing something dumb because of it. I will say each time I do feel extremely bad afterwards. I feel like if I had kids this is something I would struggle with, which is why I'm trying to improve myself while I'm still young. Maybe talk to her about this. Ask how she feels about this and maybe possibly get a diagnosis later on. If a family, relative have autism, ADHD, it's very likely that she could have it. I would definitely ask her if she thinks she has one of them or possibly both. She needs to be assessed for ADHD. Like you've just listed ADHD symptoms. I also have ADHD, so I know it's tough. Definitely recommend getting diagnosed. The medication is much more helpful than non-ADHD medications. I hope this helps and I hope you guys get sorted. 21 female, had an abortion but now he 23 male, and his family still resent me. What do I do? My 21 female boyfriend, 23 male, had an accidental pregnancy in March. I had an IUD but the IUD failed. I found out I was pregnant on my deceased mother's birthday. My boyfriend was against me keeping the pregnancy from the start, but I had an extremely hard time making a decision. My family and friends all really wanted me to keep the baby but he didn't, and that was stressing me out. He was trying to be supportive until he eventually told his parents after my first ultrasound, after lying saying he had told them weeks before. His family freaked out, of course, as they are all about the optics. I started experiencing immense pressure from all of them almost immediately. My boyfriend took me to his mom's and I agreed I wanted to abortion because I wanted to avoid conflict because I was scared. I felt like I was being thrown to the wolves by my boyfriend. After that meeting I decided that I was really unsure if I did want the abortion or not. I was about 9 weeks and I felt an attachment to the baby. My boyfriend said he was coming to stay with me for a week to help me and take care of me. Every time I mentioned keeping the baby he would throw a huge fit and go downstairs and call his parents, and this was very stressful for me. It got to the point where he would leave while I was crying and call his parents in the car and then make up an excuse to drive home. The last time I had told him I was keeping it, he called his parents and then they said they wanted me to come over for dinner. I said no. I didn't want to subject myself to that stress. He kept begging me to reconsider, so against my better judgment I did. He finally left again one night and I was so tired of him being in and out that I texted him and told him I would have the abortion. He was very happy and promised to be my rock and my #1 supporter. The abortion went fine. His family had me stay at the house and were very kind to me. When he dropped me off after the abortion I barely heard from him for a few days and I was really struggling with my mental well-being and I wanted to hear from him because I was in a really dark place. He came back to see me 9 days later and explained he was breaking up with me because it was too much for him to handle. I cried and cried. We talked and he said if had known how I had felt things would be different, but I had tried to tell him how much I was hurting. He says he tried to be there for me but it wasn't good enough and that's why he was breaking up with me. This confused me as it had only been a few days of me being so upset and my hormones being out of whack. I was extremely vulnerable and deeply depressed. We were talking on the phone last night and he said this has dragged him down so much and he needs time. His dad came down when he was on the phone and told him, "Be careful, remember she tried to trap you with a baby. But it was an accidental pregnancy and I didn't know what to do and I eventually made the decision that would make him and his family happy, so I'm not sure why everyone still hates me in this situation." He told me he felt like he had Stockholm Syndrome and that I was abusing him when I couldn't decide if I wanted to the abortion or not, and he didn't know what I was capable of. Meanwhile, for me, this was the most stressful ordeal of my life, and I was just trying to make the best decision for myself and others. It was never about trapping anyone. So now he hates me. His family hates me. He told me I'm abusive for trapping him with the abortion when all I really wanted was for him to be by my side like he said he would be. I love him and want to fix this. What can I do? Too long did not read. I had an abortion because my boyfriend and his family pressured me to, and apparently I'm still the bad guy and tried to trap him. Date someone else. He's an idiot. Thank God you didn't have his child. Good move by you going with the abortion. Your ex-boyfriend is a terrible person who was raised by terrible people. He's manipulative and weak. Don't listen to his BS, just block him. He did you a favor by ending the relationship. This happened to my sister too. She was happy about the accident pregnancy though, till she told him and he told her to get rid of it. She was a bit older than you. Basically ditched her at the hospital with his cousin. She had to call my brother to go look after her. It's not like she was dumb and naive either. She thought she had a great guy, good, very well-paying job, seemingly welcoming family, etc. But he basically only sent his cousin with her to make sure the job was done and made her tons of false promises to get her there about their future. She found someone who is a better fit and they own a house, have a little girl, and he is into the same crazy historical stuff she is into. Sometimes our bad decisions lead us to the best decisions. What do? Fire that guy. Out of a cannon. Into the sun. Never ever make a decision about a baby because of a man. Never ever do that again. If you didn't want the baby, it's one thing, but as you can see, nobody's happy anyway. Never ever make a decision about a baby because of a man. There is never going to be an okay situation between you and her. I would leave him. It is never going to work out. How can I, F33, move past my boyfriend, M37, influencing me to get an abortion? Hi. I'm using a throwaway as it is early days in the pregnancy, so want to keep this as private as possible. To be clear from the start, I am pro-choice and pro-abortion. This post is just about figuring out how to move forward in my situation. I've, F33, been with my boyfriend, M37, for exactly a year. We had talked about the future and having children, etc. And he was always great about those discussions, and it is something we want to do in about a year anyway. However, we found out last week that I am pregnant and it wasn't planned. He was really great and supportive initially, and we both had similar concerns on whether we were ready to give up our lives for this yet. But last night we had a huge row because of some things he said which made me feel like I don't have a choice but to abort. While he has said that he will support me, he said that he doesn't think now is the time and voiced concerns that having a baby now will put too much pressure on us and we will break up. And finally, the real kicker, he then said he was worried he would resent me if we kept it. I do understand that he's being honest, and can even understand that we've only been together for a year, so of course there will be additional pressure. But at a time when I want to feel secure and supported, those comments have done just the opposite. I want to be with him more than I want this baby, and I really don't want to be a single co-parent, so I just can't see how I have any choice but to have an abortion if he doesn't really want to do this, which it seems he doesn't. He keeps saying he's not making me do anything, but of course I feel completely influenced by what he said. Some background on us. He has a very well-paid job but is finding it hard at the moment due to some changes in his team. He has various external projects that he says will now be affected due to the financial implications of having a baby. I had just handed in my notice at my current company, but I don't foresee too much trouble in finding another job. While my salary is fine, I couldn't afford to do this on my own or if we broke up and had to co-parent. We both own our flats. We don't currently live together and neither of us have any children. Our relationship has been solid and easy until recently when we started bickering a bit more. But overall I think, as far as unplanned pregnancies go, we're pretty well equipped to deal with this. I feel like I'm going to always be so hurt by him for influencing me into having an abortion when I haven't made my own mind up yet. Is there a way to move forward from this? How can we stay together without me now resenting him for making me feel like I have no choice in the matter? So you want him to tell you what you want to hear, instead of the truth. He is 100% in the right to tell you that he does not want to have this child. He should not have to lie to you to protect your feelings for something as huge as creating an entirely new person and being trapped in a life he does not want. He has made it clear that he will not be involved if you have this child. So now you have to decide if you really are equipped to be a single mother with no job. Having a baby in a relationship is a decision between the two of you. He is being honest and saying he doesn't want a child. If you try and force that on him, he will resent you. Would you prefer to pressure him into having a child? Why does it sound like you are upset at him voicing his opinions? Why can't you have a child later in life? Why does it need to happen now? If you pressurize him into having this baby, it would be wrong, as the birth of a child should be decision of both parents. It's truly wrong to put the responsibility of a child on someone who is not ready. Don't cancel me or anything, just like it should not be forced for a woman to have a child. I feel a man should also not be pressurized. If he is being honest with you and telling you he doesn't want one, respect his choice. He's allowed to have his own opinions on whether he wants you to have the baby, and you don't have the right to tell him he's wrong for doing so. You are a grown-ass woman. Why are you whining about your partner having an opinion on a decision that will massively change his life? You sound more like a teenager who's upset that everyone isn't agreeing with her. Make the choice for yourself, because your boyfriend has told you in so many words that he isn't dependable. If you are willing to have and raise the baby by yourself, then have it. He had the right to be scared and unwilling to want a child. He doesn't have to support you to the exclusion of his own feelings and desires.